Charles, it's exciting to have you here. And I know you as a professional photographer with over 35 years experience in advertising photography, mostly focusing on tourism and architecture. And then in the last 12 years, you've been doing video, and we've worked together on many projects capturing small businesses. But I'm really interested in hearing about your new passion project.
Hey, thanks, Martin, for inviting me today. Thanks for that great introduction. As you know, I've been thinking about this and talking about this for a couple of years now. So I'm really excited to be able to share it with you and your audience today. But before I get into it, I have a question. How many of us can tell a story about our great-grandparents or know how our grandparents met or even our parents?
Yeah, not many. I guarantee that.
Unfortunately, rarely do we question our family histories until it's too late. Once we get into our 50s and 60s, we realize we don't really know that much. And so then we start to ask questions. But I don't know how many times I've heard at a family gathering somebody say, I wish I had asked about that when there was somebody here left to ask. My solution to this issue is So Generations Will Know, a platform that provides people, mostly seniors, a way to share their stories. Use high quality video and audio. Sit down and with your family member and capture all that needs to be shared so generations will know.
Go into a little more detail how that works and what it looks like when you do it.
Well, my approach is simple yet effective. I use professional equipment, but it's relatively small, like this camera here, and this small microphone. I'll use lights if necessary. I guide the conversation, asking questions if necessary, but mostly allowing the storyteller to speak freely. I do minimal editing that preserves authenticity. And families will receive a copy that can be shared privately, can be uploaded to YouTube, or if they don't know how to do that, I can upload it to my YouTube channel and share the link.
As someone who's worked with you quite a few times, you have an amazing natural disarming quality that puts people at ease so that they will be comfortable in front of the camera. I think that's one of the biggest things you bring to it, because when you have family members trying it, they bring their story and their projection of it. And part of this gold is you and how you work with people and make them comfortable in opening up.
I genuinely like listening to people's stories, especially older people's stories. And I generally find they're more interesting because there's more to their life than we know about. And that tends to lead me to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, and that's another one of your gifts when we're working on projects. You're really good at asking extra questions and digging deeper so that you'll find out what we need to do. And when I see you do this with the client, you really know the question to ask. And so it's putting them at ease and also knowing the questions that will really draw out the best story. Why is this important? I can see the value, but I want to hear from you why it's important.
Well, I'll go back to that, what I've heard so often, wish I'd asked, right? And I've attended a lot of funerals lately. I'll see a photo or hear a story about the person, and I'll wish I had gotten to know them better. I wish I had asked them to tell me some of their stories. My great-grandmother was born in 1886. She attended college, yet I know nothing about her experience there or even how she was able to go to college then, because young women, it was rare for young women to go to college back then. And another reason, Martin, if you're fortunate enough to hear a story from the person that lived it, how well are you going to remember the details? You're going to be able to retell it? My Uncle Aubrey shared this incredible, entertaining, very detailed story with me once of his time in Turkey. In the early 60s, he was in the Army, and his job was to build missile silo doors. But that's not the incredible part. What was incredible was this time he was sent to a remote part of Turkey to repair a water system. He had to take a bus. The bus was full of Turks. They had animals, chickens, goats. There was all kinds of stuff tied to the bus. Well, the bus had a flat tire on the way. So during the downtime, him and another soldier named Slim or Tex decided to go to a nearby village. There, they run into some local men and have some unfavorable interaction and decide it's best to go back to the bus. They get back in time to see the driver replacing the tire using all these various sized nuts, beating them onto the hub so the wheel will stay on. So he painted a very vivid picture. I could visualize everything he was saying like it was a movie playing in front of me. But I can't begin to do that story justice. How I wish I had recorded him that day. Then I could hear his voice. I could see his expressions as he relived that story. And how much do you think my aunt, his wife, would like to be able to watch that now?
Yeah.
As far as I know, he never told that story to anyone else. He died 2 months later.
Oh.
Because of that is why I started thinking about and developing So Generations Will Know.
Could you give an example of some of the stories you've recorded?
Yeah, I had the honor of sitting down with Don Casey, a 95-year-old World War II veteran, part of the D-Day invasion. He was a radio operator, and his Jeep got stuck on the beach. His driver, a man named Shell, was somewhat panicking, trying to get the Jeep unstuck, and was standing up. So Mr. Casey says, "Shell, get down. Those are real bullets. There's a war going on." And I sat down with Thurston Jolly, a door gunner in Vietnam. And if you don't know what a door gunner is, that's the man that hangs out of the helicopter with a machine gun. The number one deadliest job in Vietnam. Yet, despite being fired upon regularly and crashing twice, he never got a scratch. But he died 8 months after I sat down with him.
I remember that because people were so pleased that you had done that video, the family and everyone else. And if you hadn't captured it, that wouldn't be there. Because there's nothing like seeing the expressions, hearing the tone of their voice. I remember my cousin, since I got a video of their dad, he was like, I forgot my dad's voice. You know, it was so emotional to hear the voice, the tone, and the expressions.
This would be a good time to watch this video about two sisters that are talking about how they met their spouse.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I don't think many people know how their parents met. I've heard Aunt Nancy say something like, once she laid eyes on Aubrey Wooten, that was it. I'd like you to tell me how you met Uncle Aubrey and Uncle Newton and what you did to get their attention.
In other words, how did we hook them, right? How did we get their attention? How did we catch?
Wasn't it at school?
He came to the school that I was going to. He changed schools and came up to the school that I was going to, and so at lunch what we did after lunch was walk around the schoolhouse. So after I saw him, and I thought, kind of like the way he looks, you know. So if I'd walk this way, and if I didn't see him after 2 or 3 trips around, then I'd turn around and go the other way so I'd get a chance to see him. And somehow we always kind of looked at each other, you know, when we pass each other. And then The first time that I went with Aubrey, we kind of caught each other's eye at school. And then when we had the county fair that used to come through once a year. So I went with Mom and Dad to the fair. And he was going to the fair that night. So we met at the fair and we walked around. And we held hands. And when my mother told me after we got home, don't you hold hands with a boy out in public like that anymore. Yes, Mama. She did.
Oh, gosh, I don't doubt it.
She did. She told me I couldn't hold hands with a boy like that. But oh, it was such a thrill. It was.
Oh, of course, we were young and innocent.
That's right. And that's how it all started. Walking around the schoolhouse.
How did you and Uncle Newton meet?
Well, I met him at a Halloween party. I had turned 15 in July, and every year our school had a harvest festival and at Halloween. And so they had cakewalks and, get dumped in the apple and all this kind of stuff that we usually had, and they had bingo. Well, I had gone with my mom and dad and I guess you were there too, and Charles, and yeah, Charles was there. And so what we did, I walked into the room, they were playing bingo, and I walked down through the tables, and then when I came back through the tables, there was this big blue eyes looking at me. And this blonde-headed young man was sitting there, and that's all it took. So don't really remember how we started dating. I do know that my dad let me go out with him, even though I had just turned 15. But it had to be with a group. I mean, it had to be double dating. So anyway, that's how I met him.
That was fabulous. I was drawn in, and they aren't even my relatives. It was so endearing to hear them playing off of each other and their story. This is not just a gift to the family, but other people as well.
These 3 videos are just 3 to 5 minute snippets of much longer recordings. And if you'd like to see those, go to my website, charlesregister.com, and select Generations in the menu.
Charles, this reminds me of my experience because I did capture some stories. But one was at Thanksgiving with my mother and her brother, and everyone was talking. I couldn't get them to really be quiet. And then now that they've passed on, everyone's grateful they have it. But it's still, there's background noise, it's disruptive. And another story was my father wanted to go to Thanksgiving when he was on dialysis. I couldn't get him there. I set up a little Zoom thing. I recorded. That's the last video I have of my father. And I really wish I had more quality of each one of them. And with your approach, you would have been able to draw them out, get the stories, because you would have interviewed me and go, tell me what you know about them. That's going to spawn your question system and draw that out, and I'd love to have it. But people are grateful they even got those little clips.
You brought up a couple of important points, Martin. We tend to want perfection. Better time, better place, better equipment, when the reality is, the best time and place is here and now. The best equipment is the equipment you have. But you do need to be intentional about asking. Ask questions, ask for the story. People will generally, given a chance, people will talk. And don't assume it's an inconvenience. Another thing, people not even born yet are going to want to see these videos.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be so appreciative.
Yeah, like the grandkids. Tell me about Grandpa, and now you've got a video of him, or Grandma. That's that's to me the greatest thing you do is you give something that can be a legacy passed down. And wouldn't it be great to have our great grandfather or grandmother telling their story that we'd have today?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Charles, how much does this project cost?
Well, Martin, my goal is to keep this as reasonably priced as possible, with the reality that video production is very time consuming. To sit down to do a 2-hour recording requires an additional 10 hours of production. So how do you like this math? 12 hours of production plus $9,000 in equipment required to do this, plus 35 years of experience equals $995.
I think that's an amazing deal. I mean, that's thousands of dollars for any production, because I know how much time it takes even with simple edits. Setting up, I've worked with you, because even when you walk on a set, you're thinking about how are you staging it? You're going to ask questions before you work with them. Mm-hmm. You're going to be, I call it your gift of staging and thinking what's the best angles. Then you'll be recording it. Then you have to go back and you'll be editing it. Even though it's minor edits, you're going to be doing a few little things to clean it up and then uploading it, making it available. That's clearly a few $1,000s of labor, minimum, if not more.
Well, that is a basic up to 2-hour recording with minimal editing. If you want a more elaborate production, we can have multiple cameras to have different camera angles. We can have 2 or 3 family members telling stories. Or we can have one family member interviewing another family member. Or we can add photos or other recordings. All that would be additional cost.
Mm-hmm. But this gives them a base at an affordable price that clearly they can purchase or get some family members to pitch in to get them going.
To contact me, call or text me at 919-414-8235 or email me at charles@charlesregister.com.
Charles, I can't imagine a family that wouldn't want to capture these stories of their loved ones while they're here for generations to come. Is there any final comments?
Yeah, I know how easy it is to put something like this off. We assume there's always time, but tomorrow is not promised to anyone. So whether you have me record your loved ones or you do it yourself, the important thing is to take action so generations will know.